So Bernie Sanders poured on the working class populism in his Fox News town hall. I'm going to show you a clip here. I think this is basically the perfect answer. I don't think it's possible to coach somebody to come up with a better answer than the answer he gave here. Let's watch, and then we'll discuss.
My question for Senator Sanders here is, how would you bring back jobs in industry like Bethlehem Steel that have been lost due to, in part, trade deals that don't favor the American working class?
Hey, Romney, that's a great question. You are looking at a former congressman and a senator who not only voted against NAFTA, walked the picket lines with union workers to see that, voted against CAFTA, voted against permanent normal trade relations with China, strongly opposed the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And why did I oppose all of these disastrous trade agreements? It was very clear to me that these agreements under Democratic and Republican leadership was written by multinational corporations to make these corporations even wealthier at the expense of the American worker. So let me suggest what is not a radical idea. American workers should not have to compete against desperate people around the world who are making $1 or $2 an hour. Now, I think we have a moral responsibility to lift up poor people around the world along with the rest of the wealthy countries. But you can do that without engaging in a race to the bottom. I have heard from, I've got a 100% lifetime pro-union voting work, and I'm very close to the unions. And I talk to union workers, and they say, our boss has said that if you don't take a pay cut, you don't take a cut in health care, we're going to move to Mexico, we're going to move to China, where people are prepared to work for almost nothing. So trade is a good thing, but we need a trade policy that works for working families and not just for the large corporations.
You hear that sound? Do you hear it? That's the sound of Obama voters who turned around and voted for Donald Trump in 2016, turning right back around and voting for Bernie Sanders in 2020. That's what that is. Now, why is this clip so important? It's important because it was about 70,000 votes in the Rust Belt that ultimately handed the election to Donald Trump. Hillary did not campaign in many of these states. She thought, they're in the bag, I'm not even going to go there. And what did Trump do? He went to these states in the lead up to the election, and he was hammering NAFTA, and he was hammering, I'm going to keep your jobs here. It's going to be tremendous. It's going to be unbelievable. I have to tell you. Believe me, folks. Believe me. So Bernie Sanders kneecaps all of the perceived advantages that Trump had with his fake populism. Because you couldn't find Hillary saying shit like Bernie just said right there. You want to know why? Because Hillary supported NAFTA. Hillary supported most of these trade deals. Bill Clinton signed NAFTA. So it's not convincing. Whenever she did say anything that was anti-outsourcing, it was always so tepid and forced to that position, and she didn't dwell on it long because she obviously doesn't really believe in it. So the way to win back that territory is not rocket science. The way to win the Rust Belt is not rocket science. You have to be pro-worker. So what did Bernie say there? I voted against NAFTA. I voted against CAFTA. I voted against permanent normal trade relations with China. I fiercely opposed TPP. I protested with unions, and by the way, he still does. He oftentimes goes to protest with them. And then he says corporations are screwing workers in order to make more money. That's obvious, and we need to fight back against it. I don't want any more outsourcing, and I don't want to race to the bottom. It shouldn't be on union workers who are making a decent living to have to compete with Mexico and China, where they have workers working for next to nothing. We need laws that incentivize companies to stay in the United States of America and continue to give people a decent wage. What he's saying is like common sense, and he actually cares deeply about it, whereas Donald Trump is a fake populist. And Bernie Sanders will win in the Rust Belt massively because it's clear at this point at least that Trump was a fake populist. Did you know in Trump's first year as president, 93,000 jobs were outsourced? Did you know that? That's more than Obama, and Trump ran as I'm the anti-outsourcing president. Outsourcing increased. Outsourcing increased under Donald Trump. Instead of signing an executive order that made the U.S. federal government buy goods from only American companies, what did he do? He didn't sign that executive order, and he said, oh, we'll just have a Buy American week. Well, what does that mean? It's just symbolic. That's it. There's nothing attached to it. There's no actual there. It's just, symbolic. I'm so pro-American worker. Let's have a Buy American week where we don't do anything. We just say it's Buy America week. So Trump is a fake populist. In his tax bill, 80% of the benefits over a decade go to the top 1%. It cuts the estate tax. That only applies to 0.02% of the public, people with fucking estates. He cut the corporate tax massively. This guy, there's a reason why he packed his administration full of Goldman Sachs lackeys. He is a Goldman Sachs lackey. He wants that pat on the back from the establishment and the moneyed interests. He just had a meeting in Las Vegas with Sheldon Adelson and one of the other asshole GOP billionaire donors. What do you think he's doing? He's building up his war chest for 2020, but he's doing it in all the fucking gross, corrupt, sellout ways that he pretended to be against the first time. So these people rolled the dice on Trump in the Rust Belt. Now, are there people who did vote for Trump because of his bigotry? Yes, they exist. There are some too far gone. Of course they exist. But the people in the Rust Belt who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump, no, they're not. They do not have the same motivation as the fucking David Dukes and Richard Spencers. They just don't. And one of my main contentions, one of my main beefs with the centrist Democrats is that they pretend like, all the Trump voters are the same. There's no, you don't have to look at the multiple different reasons why different people voted for him. It's just, they're all bad, they're all racist, they're all bigoted, or at the very least, they overlook the bigotry. So they're all bad, and let's just talk about race nonstop. No, you can actually win a lot of these people. Assuming you want to, by the way, and at this point, I think some centrists are so stupid, they don't even want to, change anybody's mind, which is why a lot of people were bitching that Bernie went on Fox News at all. But, this is how you win them. If somebody voted for Obama twice and then voted for Trump, that's a winnable person. You just need to run on the right ideas. And there was a report that we talked about, I think it was a poll about a year and a half ago now. They went and they spoke to these Rust Belt Democrats, and they were very clear. They vote for populist Democrats over Republicans every time. But it has to actually be a populist Democrat. And you know who is a populist Democrat? Bernie Sanders. So he's gonna fight for the workers, man. That's what he's gonna do. And again, the thing that flipped this election is simply the Rust Belt, full stop. Those states where it was about 70,000 votes, 70 to 100,000 votes dispersed in the Rust Belt, who voted for Trump. And Bernie Sanders, in just the shit he said here, that alone is enough to change their minds. I guarantee you. Now, he's obviously got to keep making the case because not everybody saw this Fox News town hall. But this is the kind of stuff that changes minds. And this is the kind of stuff that makes it so that he's really a shoo-in to beat Trump. So, funny enough, the same argument that's made by centrists where they say, well, we can't roll the dice on somebody you can't win. We got to go with the sure thing. That argument that they make, which is an argument they think to bolster establishment Democrats, the exact opposite is true. If you really don't want to roll the dice and all you care about is beating Trump, Bernie Sanders is the answer. He's his kryptonite. So he undercuts all of that fake anti-establishment populist rhetoric that Trump puts out there, because Bernie Sanders is actually anti-establishment and he's actually populist. And he also knows how to rip Trump to shreds. So that's the perfect answer right there. I absolutely loved it. Bernie, more of this.